Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja Dwivedi, and today in this segment we are going to discuss about the increasing nuclear warheads of China. This topic is important from the perspective of prelims and also from the perspective of GS mains papers. Let's begin with the topics of discussion. Starting with the news, we will cover all these topics step by step. First, let's know why is it in the news. So, James Martin Center for Non-proliferation Studies has brought out some news through its satellite. The news is not so good for the world because it has seen that China is building silo facilities, missile silo facilities in the regions of Inner Mongolia. And if we talk about the regional impacts of it, there are going to be many. So let's begin and we will analyze this news in detail. First, let's know what is a missile silo. A missile silo is a vertical, underground, huge cabin which is there for storing missiles. And there is a door, that is a blast door, which is connected to the missile launch center. And this silo is basically, it is built at a place where it is more easier for the missile to be launched first. Secondly, it should be at a space, it should be situated at a space which is not very populous. So, as you can see with the help of these pictures, China is building its missile silos in the desert areas. And if we talk about the actual missile, which before this entire revelation of new missile silos, it was predicted that 20 silos of missile were there. But now, as you can see, in the Hami, that is Kumul, in East Xinjiang province of China, these red ones, if you see the red ones, these are already under construction. And the square ones are the missile launch support facilities which are connected to them. So they are under certain commands. If the missile has to be launched, the support facility will keep the missiles on alert status and the blast door will open, and hence the launching of the intercontinental ballistic missiles. That means it can move continents. And as you can see, the possible future silos are so many. It's like a honeycomb of missile silos. So if we talk about why is China doing so, of course, we know that the contemporary world right now is very volatile in nature. And China has shown, maybe it is doing for three main reasons. First is launch on warning nuclear posture. This is showing what is a launch on warning nuclear posture. That means the silos and the missiles in the silos will be ready to attack the particular state which has launched the missile on China. But before the missiles reach to China, these silos will get activated on launch on warning mode, and then they will attack those state which has launched the missile on China, and hence it acts as a deterrent. And of course, these missiles are right now, these are kept on de-alerted status because for launch on warning missile, this posture, nuclear posture, the missiles should always be in alerted posture. But right now, these are on de-alerted posture. So, this is one of the reasons that may be. Second, increasing its nuclear warhead stockpile. Because as we know that China has around 150 land-based missiles that can deliver between 180 to 190 nuclear warheads to some parts of the United States. But now it has grown. Because of these missile silos, we can see that silos, if they will grow, of course, they will also house the missiles. So the missiles will grow up to twice the size that China has right now. Although it is not as much as the US and the Russia, but of course, why not? China can build its missile silos because there is a growing tension between India and the US. Moving on, China could also use these silos as decoys. What are decoys? These are basically a kind of a game. Maybe one silo has a missile, but other doesn't. But why will China do so? Because in order to entice any country that has been engaged in a war with China, to entice, suppose US, that yes, we have a group of missiles over here, you can target this area. But the actual missiles are not here, they are somewhere else. What will happen then? Of course, US has spent all of its warheads in destroying those missile silos which were supposed to have, but they did not. So it's a decoy. It's basically a shell game. And President Xi Jinping recently directed the military to accelerate the creation of advanced strategic deterrent capabilities. We will discuss about deterrence as well. So these three are the reasons. China may play a shell game. It is increasing its stockpiles because it is threatened by the US. And of course, in order to become a nuclear superpower much better than the US and the Russia, it is doing so. Moving on, look at this map. This shows a range of the ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and you can see where China stands over here. Okay, so moving on, if we talk about the intercontinental ballistic missiles, these are very capable warhead carriers. This can destroy an entire major chunk part of a nation. Moving on. So, moving on to the next segment of this, we need to understand what is China's nuclear policy, nuclear program. China has a shell game. It keeps the nations guessing about its actual stance because there is a lot of ambiguity when it comes to the nuclear policy of China. China and India both have the nuclear policy of no first use, but it also threatens many countries of actually taking into consideration a new nuclear policy which does not have this clause of no first use. And it exploded its first nuclear device in 1964. Since then, the nuclear policy of China is unchanged, largely unchanged. And arsenal capabilities vis-a-vis the US is not that large, but of course, it can enlarge in the size. As we have already seen, that numbers are not very important, just to give you a gist of how large they can become in the future. Now, ambiguity, of course, ambiguity here I am stressing why? Because China has threatened to nuke Japan because of Japan's anti-China policy when it comes to Taiwan. It has said that we will reconsider the new no first use policy because it doesn't want Japan to enter the premises, it doesn't want Japan to have any opinion on the independence of Taiwan. So there is still no certainty, and with China we know how tenacious it can be. And nuclear deterrence is equal to nuclear compellence. This is what the Chinese say. That means we will keep on enhancing our nuclear warheads so that the other countries are compelled to not have any war on us, to not penetrate with nuclear devices on us. But what does happen after then? Nuclear capabilities of every country, because in order to deter the other country, it keeps on increasing. Moving on. Although the SSAC's first edition in 1996 clearly states the survey strategy as emphasis on deterrence and effective counterattack. I and my neighbor, we both have nuclear weapons. If my neighbor will have 10 nuclear weapons, I will try to have at least 15. Then again, he or she will grow their nuclear weapons up to 2025. And again, this is an ongoing competition. And one day, nothing of such sort will happen, but we have a lot of nuclear warheads. So it's a deterrent that if you are going to have declared any nuclear war on me or attack me with your nuclear weapons, I will of course do the same. It's kind of that. Moving on, if we talk about the reaction of the US, it has stated that the buildup is concerning. China is growing at a fast pace, and we need to understand that China's intention right now in the world, which are emboldened by the efforts of Pakistan and by the efforts of Taliban, if they come together, a trilateral agreement, God forbid, happens between them to counter India, then what will happen? First is that. Second, US's reaction, of course. China being a regional power right now is aspiring to become a global power. And global power means economic power, power with the help of its arsenals and army, and technological and digital power. So that is something that US is concerned about. And of course, you can see this is the second time in 2 months that the public has discovered what we have been saying all along about the growing threat, the growing China threat theory. The world faces and the veil of secrecy that surrounds it, because Chinese government, there hasn't been any sort of official statement by the Chinese government, but the Chinese media is time and again saying that these are wind farms, these are not the missile silos. Moving on, if we talk about this particular graph, you can see the countries holding the world's largest nuclear arsenal. Russia stands first and USA is the second. This is up till 2019. Okay, and here stands India, China and Pakistan. And of course, as you can see, both the neighbors of India and China are nuclear capable countries. And China time and again has said that India has to sign the Non-proliferation Treaty. How can it be when India is surrounded by one country which is a complete bullion, one country which is a complete nuisance when it comes to its powers? So, moving on, you can see concerns for India by and large is, first we need to understand that this arsenal is basically against the US. But India has to be very careful because of the deployment of DF-26 in the Xinjiang province when the ongoing standoff was going on. So DF-26, which is an intermediate dual-use missile, mobile road missile, this is something that is a potential threat to India, and the timing of its deployment also is something that India should be concerned about. But broadly, India should be, of course, watchful, and India's modest ballistic missile capabilities, which is coupled with Chinese ambiguity with respect to its nuclear policy, because we do not have a very large we are not by and large a very nuclear capable country. We are still in the process. And China has an ambiguity. It can first have a policy of first use, or it can have a policy of no first use. We are not very sure of that. So of course, we should be cautious when it comes to developing our own nuclear capabilities. And of course, Quad, the quadrilateral, the informal grouping of Japan, Australia, India and the US, it will have an impact on China, because it becomes insecure day by day that maybe this grouping could be a threat to China. And basically, the important thing that we need to keep in mind over here is Quad is not solely for the purpose of containing China. It is for the purpose of having a prosperous, open region, which is fulfilled with the help of the rule of the law, rules-based world order, which China threatens to all the time. China has become a threat to the rules-based order. That is the sole purpose. And that is, of course, something that India should be. There are certain treaties with respect to the nuclear weapons. First is the Nuclear Non-proliferation Treaty. That means it tries to contain the proliferation or spread of nuclear technology for nuclear arsenal and nuclear warhead. It tries to make the nuclear technology to be used for peaceful purposes. And it was signed in the year 1968, came into effect in 1970. Okay, and it is a legally binding treaty, keep in mind. Then Open Skies Treaty, which was signed in the year 1992, and it came into effect in 2002. It was basically, by the name Open Skies, you can understand it is an aerial surveillance treaty between the US and USSR, and there were 34 members to help the countries to build trust. The plane of USSR or Russia, basically, erstwhile USSR, the plane of Russia and the plane of the USA could have a surveillance with their aerial capabilities to know how many warheads are there in each country or any other country that has signed it. But there is a problem with it, as the US under the Trump administration itself, they wanted to come out of this treaty, withdraw from this treaty, and it's still looming large. New START treaty, which replaced the New START 1 treaty, it came into effect in 2011. And here under it wants to have USA and the Russia to come in terms in order to reduce the nuclear warheads, and Russia and USA, they have extended this treaty in this year only. So these are certain important treaties. Let's move forward and talk about what should India do. India as a regional power should first try to come together with the regional countries, important regional countries, which will be affected by any instability with respect to China and USA war. So first we need to understand that we need to make China understand that this region is important not only for China but also many other countries in the South Asia and Southeast Asia. And that could be done from de-escalation with the help of track 1 diplomacy. China should not feel cornered. China should feel right now, in order for track 1 diplomacy to happen, this is something of a wishful thinking, but still we have to be positive, that China needs not to be threatened with the grouping of Quad, but the grouping of India as a regional power should take place with the Southeast Asian countries in order to make China understand the importance of the stability of this region when it comes to economic prosperity and the prosperity on other fronts as well. Moving forward, in conclusion, as you can see, I have brought out this picture as of 2020, the nuclear warheads. Nuclear warheads, and of course, fear is the biggest weapon of destruction, weapon of mass destruction, because each and every country is threatened by the volatility going in the contemporary world, which will be exacerbated by the Taliban in Afghanistan. So there are certain concerns. Every country has the same concern, but they do not talk about it on a more open approach right now, which is being seen very impossible, next to impossible. So we all should understand that fear, it is a quote, fear is the biggest weapon, largest weapon of mass destruction. Fear or threat from each other is actually increasing the stockpile of nuclear warheads. Moving on, let's look at our mains question. Critically analyze the concept of nuclear deterrence, and you have to write it in 250 words. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated, and thank you so much for watching.